what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to our Wednesday night live stream, the Hump Day edition. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, pleased to be joined by fellow Lifetime Longhorn young prodigy CJ Vogel. Yes, it does suck to be an Aggie. And, of course, the man who needs no introduction, the newest member of the On Texas Football family, man, Jeff Howe. What's up, CB? Thank you guys for joining us, wherever you're joining us from. Really appreciate you guys joining us. Throw out your questions, comments. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. Super chat jumps to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. You guys know how that works. Got a lot of topics going to get into. Of course, you got Texas spring football. Pads are on, so a little some clacking going on at practice. So we'll talk about that coming up, and also we'll get into some draft discussion. Dan Jeremiah has his latest top 50 draft prospects he came out with, I believe, like 8 hours ago or something like that. So we'll get into it. And also, Jeff, like me, is a little bit of a mock draft slut. He'll look at any mock draft. So we'll dive into all the mock draft. I think Phil Yates has a 2-round mock draft that he put out there. We'll talk about where the Longhorns stand there as well. And any other discussion you guys want to have, we'll do it right here on this platform. All right, gentlemen, let's start with spring practice. The pads are on. That to me means it's all about the trenches once the pads come on. And I guess to me, the biggest, maybe, I don't know if it's a worry, but maybe the biggest question mark I guess I would have once the pads come on is about the interior D-line and the O-line for Texas. And, them matching up. I just want to really, that to me is going to be a really compelling storyline. You got a young offensive line, but the guts of that O-line is probably going to be, one of the strengths of it, or at least projected to be one of the strengths of it. This interior D-line that Texas has, whether you're talking about the guys, the frontline guys, or you're talking about the guys they're looking to step up and provide depth in the interior defensive line, that's an unproven commodity. We don't know how that's going to look. That was the case last year, too. And then Texas turned out to be damn good all around as a defense. But once again, back-to-back years, I think another uncertainty is that interior D-line and how it's going to match up.
I feel like your interior O-line is – with Neto and Mazzulla, you should get an upgrade in the run game. And, I just think he's a better drive blocker than Hayden Connor. And Cole Hudson's played a lot of football, sliding over to center. I'm always anxious to see how that works. And, center just makes me nervous because you don't realize how important your center is until they get hurt. And then you got to go to the backup, and then you got the potential for, what to break loose.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Campbell, I'll say this. This kind of goes back to some stuff that CJ and I both heard over the weekend. DJ Campbell's name has come up a few times, and the word has been that he and Cole Hudson have taken over the leadership role in the offensive line. Now, I don't think that should surprise anybody because they're the two oldest, most experienced guys in that room. But the fact that they have been assertive, they've been proactive, grabbing the bull by the horns. This is an offseason where both those guys needed to step up and play like, hey, you guys are going into your 4th year. DJ Campbell's a multi-year starter. Cole Hudson's been a starter. You guys need to play like the veteran players on this offensive line. You guys need to bring that every day and set the tone. And CJ, from what we've heard, it sounds like at least that's happening. So that's one thing I'm thankful for so far, that Cole Hudson and DJ Campbell haven't shied away from that role.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting who gets pushed where, right? And for Cole Hudson, he's got 2 guys behind him that have been chomping at the bit, right? Daniel Cruz, we've heard about him and how ahead and advanced he's expected to be in his Texas career. Also, Connor Robertson, who's going on year 4, the same as a Nato, the same as a DJ, the same as a Cole Hudson. He's in that same breath. So who pushes who? I just posted the note that Andre Kojo got some first-team run at right tackle. So, look, we've expected right tackle to be kind of one of those sneaky spots, whether that be Brandon Baker kind of going pole to pole, wire to wire in spring football as the number 1 guy, or could you see that door creak open for an Andre Kojo? Well, today at least, there was some first-team run towards the end of practice for Andre Kojo to get out on the field and see what he can do. So it's going to be really interesting again. And I didn't even mention Nate Kibble, who I think has surprised just about everybody behind the scenes in terms of how quickly he's come along in the year and a half since he arrived on campus. So Texas right now, plenty of options on the offensive line. It's all about finding those 5. But, Jeff, I like what you said about making sure that your center is where it needs to be, right? That is a position that you don't want to have issues at. And so Texas, again, 3 really solid options. Let's see who comes away with it. So far, Cole Hudson being that guy that I have in pole position, and I think he's going to be the guy that we see come August 30th against Ohio State.
Kojo versus Bakers. I talked about that. The most sneaky good position battle in spring. I've heard some good things about Kojo. I think we all just kind of expected Brandon Baker just to slide in at right tackle and be good. But I'm glad there needs to be competition. So hey, if you leave spring and Kojo is your number 3 tackle, then hey, you're legitimately 3 deep with starting caliber guys at tackle. I'll take that all day, every day.
Yeah, no, that is a position battle that you're right. I kind of assumed Brandon Baker was going to win the job and would be always kind of the presumed, favorite to win that job. I'm glad it's a good competition. That's, to me, I'm with you, Jeff. I think that's a really good thing that Kojo's pushing them. If it's someone that's an unproven commodity, they should be pushed for that position. That's why cornerback is the same thing. Like we got guys we think are going to win those jobs, but I'm with you, Jeff. I think it's a positive thing when you got a real live competition going on between those guys. So, all right, let me get into, because CJ, actually, you're getting some grief here from Rex. Since last night's baseball loss sits squarely on the shoulders of one CJ Vogel. I remember you were getting a lot of criticism on social media last night because of your tweet, and
they scored. I stand by it. Jeff. I don't know where you stand on this, but hey, a no-hitter, the whole specialty of a no-hitter is that you're so good, no one gets on base, which means no one has scored. If there's a run on the board, the specialty of a no-hitter, that's gone for me. So
yeah. Now the baseball gods, that's a 50-50 proposition on how they'll take that out on you. But if I'm playing judge, if I've got the gavel, I'm gonna rule you. I'll suspend your sentence. I'll put it that way, CJ.
No. Longhorn fan, they didn't like it at the time when he did it yesterday. I remember, and turns out you're right.
Well, Rod, it's the second time in about 3 weeks against the UTSA loss. I sat there in the 11th inning, just said, "What do I need? I need 1 run. When do I need it? Now? By who? Anyone." Well, first at bat for UTSA, they go about 390 over left center field.
It's CJ's job to tweet, guys. So y'all can't get on too. That's part of his job. You know what I mean?
I'll be more careful with my words.
All right, thank you, Rex St. Charles. We appreciate it. This is something else that we've been talking about, and I don't even know if it's a competition so much as just a hot topic. Because I think you're going to need multiple guys to help fill this role. But Roger wants to know who will replace Gunnar Helm this season. This now is a multi-faceted conversation. All of a sudden, we knew tight end was going to be a really compelling position to watch in the spring because you just had you lost all your receptions, you lost all your productivity there, and Gunnar Helm is coming off the greatest single season for a tight end in Texas football history. Like, that's how good he was. And by the way, nobody saw that coming except for Gunnar Helm and Gunnar's people. So that's about it. But it was probably the biggest surprise of the season was Gunnar Helm.
Yeah.
And his breakout campaign. And you lose Gunnar Helm, you lose Juan Davis, another kind of steady, trustworthy guy. Sark even talked about how he had earned the trust of the coaches. And now you got an injury to Jordan Washington, which is going to delay his development a little bit. Spencer Shannon is an unproven commodity. We talked about those guys. Thank you very much there, Matthew. And then the young guys, Emory Winston, you talk about Nick Townsend, not even been on campus yet. You see there Will Randall, can't forget about him either. Man, what is not just who's replaces Gunnar Helm, but do we have any idea what the tight end position is going to look like?
No.
This spring or after this spring? Like,
No,
Seriously?
but because I think that you'll add to this position in some way, shape, or form in the portal.
Got to.
I'm not saying that they've just got to take the first portal body that they like, but you just need an experienced body. You need a veteran body in there. I mean, look, we're already saying, hey, in case something happens to Spencer Shannon, but I think you've got to have multiple contingencies at this point, Rod. I think you've got to figure out, all right, what do we need to target in the portal? Do you need it? Hey, if two tight ends pop up that you like, do you take two? It could be one of those deals. I also think, hey, 6-0 line package. Now would be a great time to figure out who that guy's going to be if he's on a roster right now.
It's Ogbo, ain't it? Isn't it Ogbo still? It's not still.
CJ, I don't know what you think about this, but I worry about Malik Ogbo portaling out to find a place to play.
Okay.
But I think if they can sell him, I know it's probably tough for him to go from jumbo tight end to the offensive line back to jumbo tight end. But if you can sell him on, hey, this is how you're going to get on the field, this is how you can help us win football games. I would try to do that before he portals out. If you could, Sark and Jeff Banks, if they can just talk to him, because he can help them as that 6th lineman.
Yeah, the one kind of hesitancy I have with the 6-man offensive line is, look, they totally abandoned it last year, right? We didn't see it at all on the field, but I was told that that wasn't even something that they practiced or repped, right? So is that because Juan Davis and that 12 personnel with the two tight ends is just overwhelmingly more favorable by the staff? Certainly could be, but for them to just completely disregard it, and the staff just say, hey, we're not even going to spend a practice period or two on this regardless of who we're playing. No. That tells me that they don't want that to be a big part of the offense. And so does that change given the situation in the room, right? When a Jordan Washington goes down, do you like what you have in the sense that you could still run a 12 personnel set? I don't know. And right now I would have to say no, especially not knowing what a Nick Townsend could give you. So does that mean 6 personnel is back into play? I would have to think so. But until I see it or hear about it being repped, I can't just say that that's going to be something that they trot back out there. They're going to have to go out there and find somebody out of the portal. Again, Malik Ogbo, believe it or not, actually has more career receptions than every tight end on the roster. So that's the status of the Texas tight end room at the moment. And when you're dealing with injuries, when you're dealing with guys who get in June, well, now you're relying on a lot of inexperience and a lot of guys who haven't ever stepped foot on the field and done it. So not to say that they can't, not to say that they won't. It's just an unknown. In this day and age in portal, we've talked about it plenty of times. There's no excuse to be this inexperienced or this young at a position that with so much importance like tight end in this offense.
What's funny about Malik Ogbo's catch too? Do you guys remember what game that happened?
Well, yeah, UW.
It was the Washington game. Malik Ogbo's one catch was in a CFP semifinal. So it's not like he just got like a token ball thrown to him against ULM or something. Like, no, it's like
Rob, they were trying to break tendency there.
You're trying to get to a national championship game, and you're throwing the ball to Malik Ogbo.
That's a great point. They were trying to break tendency. my big criticism of Sark is always they don't break tendency in big games. Well, throw it to Malik Ogbo and hell of a tendency breaker, sir. College football playoff game. That is a hell of a tendency breaker. I didn't think about that. Wow, man, that just blew my mind. I realized I knew he had one catch, but I did not know that he came in that game. All right. I like the 6-0 line package for the record. I thought he would break tendency and use it versus Ohio State because it actually works really well versus 3 high defenses. But we didn't see him. And Sark said he didn't need it. So maybe he needs it now. So that's why you'll see it, to your point, Jeff. So I think we need more variety and diversity overall in the personnel groupings. So I like having a Big 11, Big 12 package. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of the 2 back sets and the pony package. Love when they get into some of the other kind of more exotic personnel group. He goes like 31 he's done that before too. I even liked when they had a Wildcat package. I know, you don't have that type of athlete maybe on your team. Or maybe you do now. Well, you didn't last year, so they got rid of the Wildcat package. But I like diversity. I I like the fact that you force defense to have to prepare for all of those looks. And all they do is just waste time chasing ghosts, pretty much most of the time. All right, someone who doesn't chase ghosts, our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. They do a great job making sure that they not only produce some of the best premium wines on the market, but also they have a fantastic venue to help you host some of the special occasions in your life, or just a fantastic getaway for you and your significant other. They're actually one of the most awarded wines in Texas, and they're really close to Austin. Matter of fact, they're really close to downtown Austin. That's right. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local spec, so you can give it a try. Also, I saw a display at our local Central Market here in Austin as well. So the good word is getting out about the fantastic wines from Flat Creek Estate Winery. It's also a gorgeous venue, as I mentioned, with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with that very special person in your life at Flat Creek Estate Winery. You can look them up at flatcreekestate.com, and you also can make reservations at flatcreekestate.com. All right, let's get back to a couple of the questions. How about this one from Shivam? Says, Rod, where do you think Alfred Collins will be drafted? I've been reading his I have been reading his Rick has been his stock. Oh, sorry. I was like, Rick, what is that? Is that a new Urban Dictionary word I gotta look up? All right, thank you for the question. Yeah, I believe it's Field Yates who recently put out a mock draft, and he actually, I believe, had Alfred Collins going in the second round. Yeah, 64th to the Eagles. Of course, the Eagles would get a guy like Alfred Collins at a value of the second round pick. But yes, so that I've seen his stock rising too. I've seen a lot of folks that do have him sneaking up into the second round. It's a really deep D-line draft, though. Interior D-line is actually one of the deepest, and it is probably one of the most talented positions in this draft, period. So for him to be drafted in the second round in this draft, that would be a hell of a compliment. So the only thing that would push his stock down to me is that it's a deep interior D-line draft. When is the run on interior D lineman is going to happen? I don't know. There's always a run on one position or another at one point in the draft. Sometimes it's early. So if there's an early run on D tackles, that'd be really good for Alfred Collins. I'm not sure if that is going to be the case. So I'm glad his stock is rising though as a second round pick. That's really good in this draft, especially.
Yeah, I've looked at 10 mock drafts, Rob, between ESPN.com, NFL.com, and CBS Sports. There's been 10 mock drafts that have been completed in the last kind of week to 10 days in that window.
Yeah.
Three of them were multi-round mock drafts. All three have Alfred Collins going in the second round.
There you go. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where his stock is right now. I think Matt Miller at ESPN has him going in the 40s. Field Yates, to your point, Rod, had him going to the Eagles at 64, and Josh Edwards at CBS has him going 63rd to the Chiefs. So kind of once you start getting into maybe the mid 40s.
Damn.
Yeah. The Chiefs.
That's awesome. That's
the
awesome.
Chiefs haven't. I got to go back and look this up, Rod. Unless I'm forgetting something or I misread it, I think Keandre Coburn was the last defensive tackle the Chiefs drafted.
Whoa.
I got to go back and look. Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with their draft. I'm not gonna lie. I have not been keeping up. But that'd be, you know what? That's wild considering, Brett Veach is one of the best GMs out there. And what Brett Veach does is interesting is he'll essentially rebuild a whole position in one offseason. That's kind of what they did it. They were supposed to have done it with the DBs, with the wide receivers, with the O-line. Like they just kind of try to take one position and he tries to rebuild it in one offseason. Now they probably got more to do, but it's probably maybe it's time to start doing that with your D line.
Keandre Coburn was a 6th round pick in 2023. That was the last defensive tackle the Chiefs drafted.
Yep.
Wow.
That's crazy. Yeah, it might be about that time because I think D tackle is a premium position now. I think it crossed over into that premium position category maybe about 3 years ago. And I think, it's among the highest paid positions now. And I think it's because, man, if you can get a guy that can play every down at D-line, I mean, that's what they got one. Chris Jones is one of those guys. Jones is toward the end of his career too.
Yeah.
And that's where the Alfred Collins comp kind of comes in. Big body moves very well. Chris Jones fell to the second round. I'm not saying he's going to be Chris Jones, but a lot of similarities from a play style and physicality standpoint.
Good point. What's Chris Jones? 6'6",
About
6'6",
330.
yeah, about 315, 320. I mean, Alfred Collins was 6'5", somewhere around there.
Yeah,
I'm 6'5" plus. He was 6'5" plus at the combine. That's always been my comp for Alfred Collins, just in terms of his ceiling. I mean, he's that athletic, that much of kind of a freak in terms of how his movement skills, his flexibility, his explosiveness at his size. Not saying he's going to be an all-pro, but I think if somebody can get the most out of him consistently, I think he's got that kind of ceiling.
They got him listed at basically 6'6". You're right there. So that would be a great place for him. Like the Eagles or the Chiefs would be ideal spots for him to end up landing. I mean, and that shows you that two great organizations, think he has a really high ceiling to draft him in the second round. Like I said, of this draft with a really deep D-line class. All right, thank you there, Shimon. We appreciate it. How about this one? Sports Damascus says, hey, how about more H-back reps if they don't believe in the tight ends? His tight end is basically his H-back. Sorry. He uses them. He uses them when they off ball and when they're not in line, and he motions them. He kind of uses them in an H-back way. He wouldn't describe him like that, but maybe he is bringing in, was it Scott McIndoe? Was it Coach McIndoe? What's his?
Jason McIndoe.
I apologize. Jason McIndoe. I don't know why I wanted to call him Scott McIndoe. It's probably his son. But Jason McIndoe, who came from Oklahoma State, the Cowboy back coach, which essentially was their all-in-one tight end, H-back, fullback hybrid. So maybe there is something to that. If you can find and maybe that's what a guy, you find someone that can have that role. I'm not sure if Spencer Shannon can do that. He's pretty big. He's 6'7", so he's not really built that way to be that kind of player for you. But
no. Spencer Shannon's your inline guy in a perfect world. And you got to, with Jordan Washington and Nick Townsend, those are two unique guys. Stop me if you've heard me use this term before. I don't want to pigeonhole those guys into saying you are this. I want to get the most out of those guys, see how much of their athletic ability, their versatility you can showcase. I do, CJ, I want to get this out at tight end though, because we get asked about Will Randall every now and then. I don't know, you had a guy that was kind of a project take anyway when they took him as a developmental guy, and then had a pretty bad knee injury as a senior. I know we're going to get asked about it at some point. I don't know if Will Randall's in a position for us to talk about him as a factor right now.
Yeah, and you start looking at the size of some of these other guys who have not had to deal with some of these knee injuries. It's significant, right? 6'6", 250, 6'5" for Jordan Washington. He's listed at 268. I don't know if I completely buy that, but he's certainly in that thicker range. Will Randall, right around 240. So you're giving up some size, some of that substantial size for a guy who's yet to see inline blocking off the edge or off of a tackle that we're talking about. And we're also hearing some good news or some positives for a walk-on Ridge Barker. So he's right now running in that third group, or was until Jordan Washington went down. Now you're hearing more about Amari Winston, who's still getting his body right, but still with Amari Winston and Jeff, I don't know how he figures into this room other than it's another body, but at 6'1.5", 6'2"-ish, his body's meant to be going down the field from the slot, right? Not necessarily your inline guy. You start talking about H-backs, his body kind of fits more of the mold of a guy that plays a sniffer and chips before leaking out into the flats or down into a route. So not really, I wouldn't say there's a consensus mold of tight end right now on roster, though, who Texas is recruiting in 26 and beyond. You're going to start seeing a lot of dudes that fit that Gunnar Helm, JT Sanders kind of mold.
How big is how heavy is Amari Winston?
He's listed at like 241, I think.
Okay, and he's about 6'2", something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
between 6'1" and 6'2". Yeah,
between 6'1" and 6'2". Yeah, I think I deal a guy like that. I want him to be Aaron Hernandez, not in that way, but on the field if you guys remember Aaron Hernandez, the player, all right,
Yeah.
and the way that he was utilized as a smaller tight end. What was Aaron Hernandez? 6'2", probably 6'2", 245, somewhere around there.
Hey,
That's
Rod, you remember when we
ultimately-
thought that DeAndre McNeil and Devonair Clarington were going to be Texas' version of Gronk and Hernandez?
I thought that, but I've been wrong about some stuff before, and I was wrong about that one.
Look, I wear my wrongs like a badge of honor. I've said, look, I've been in this market since 2008. I said a lot of stuff that would go on freezing cold takes. So
exactly, it won't be the last time I have.
Jeff, it's the worst feeling. I've been hit with a few freezing cold takes and like been retweeted by the account. Oh my god!
Nice.
Just throw the phone away for a little bit, come back tomorrow and start fresh. Not very fun.
Yeah, people getting
on texting you, just like, oh yeah, you see you got hit. I'm like, yeah, I saw I got hit.
No, that's what Billy Lucci's going through right now. And that famous tweet is, I mean, I see this tweet everywhere now. It's being retweeted by just college football accounts, not even Longhorn fans or Sooner fans or even rival fans. It's just random accounts about college football. So I was like, yeah, I mean, hey, we all been there. You got to own that one. You got to own it. Like, yeah, I was wrong. I was dead wrong about it. Don't worry about it.
Two-time survivor, freezing cold takes. So we'll take that.
Hey, well done. I didn't know that, CJ. Hey, that's legendary, bro. Good for you. Good for you, man. All right, getting back to the questions here. How about this one from Aaron? It says, CJ, do we have a real chance with Jakari White from North Dakota State? Is that what it is? NDSU?
Yeah, he's a 6'3" point guard, shooting guard. From North Dakota State, was expected on campus today or this week, I believe. Averaged 16.1 points per game, 40% from the field, 37 from three, and 87 from the line. So a big-time scoring option should the Longhorns go out and take him. Jeff, I believe you and Jerry actually shot on Texas basketball this afternoon as well. So Texas certainly active, looking for some scoring options for next year with Sean Miller's inaugural year.
Yeah, the portal closes at 11:59 tonight, so got him in ahead of the dead period, which is good. Sean Miller, we did talk about this. By the way, check out On Texas Basketball with Jerry and I on the channel. As soon as we're done, just hang with us for the live stream and then go check out On Texas Basketball. But yeah, Sean Miller has had a lot of success with combo guards, and I think that makes me feel better about alleviating one of the problems, really, that I just kind of saw getting worse as Rodney Terry's tenure went on, which was having a quality guard that can run your second unit. That was one of there were so many special things about that Elite Eight team, but one of the things that I loved about it was between Jabari Rice, Marcus Carr, and Tyrese Hunter. You always had a guard. And plus Timmy Allen could facilitate offense too, but you had three guards. Any of them could lead your offense. All three could play off the ball. You could play all three of them together if you wanted to. Some combination of the two. Didn't really have a lot of that with last year, and then this year, you basically needed. I think now we're seeing this team this past season. They needed Tremont Mark to be healthy the whole year. They needed Tremont Mark to be healthy because the ability to play he and Trey Johnson together. It just the times where Mark wasn't available, you were relying too much on Trey Johnson, then you didn't have anybody to run that second unit, and that's when games would start to get away from you. So I do think the fact Jakari White kind of fits the mold of what Sean Miller's looking for in a guard. 6'3", 6'4" guy that can shoot a little bit, can score, but it can also facilitate some offense. So I dig it. We'll see what happens if Texas lands him. I think the bigger news today for basketball was Nick Cody announcing that he's coming back. I'd heard a couple of weeks ago that it was more likely he was going to hit the portal, but him coming back, and you look at John Clark coming in, Nick Cody coming back, Jamie Vincent, we assume he's coming back. Before you add a portal big, which we expect him to add a big or two, you're going to have some pretty good size on Sean Miller's first team. So it's still really early, and it's a marathon putting a roster together. It's not a sprint. You got to leave no stone unturned, but I can kind of it's still muddy, but it's clearing up a little bit to picture what Sean Miller wants to do with this roster.
Yeah, no, I'm just glad he's got a clear identity. I said that before. Everybody knows what style of basketball he wants to play. Should make it easier for him to be able to recruit talent to that style, to that system. He's coming in with a philosophy already. One of the things about Rodney Terry, I don't know if he ever really established an identity that a clear-cut one that as an analyst or just a fan observing, you could say, oh, no, this is Rodney Terry basketball.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was. So I think we all know what Sean Miller's style of basketball is. He's stated that several times. All right, good question there. Oh, how about this one from Joseph? I like this one from Joseph. This is a good question. Joseph says, all right, Rod, I watched the third and Longhorn with Makuba. And yeah, we've had Makuba's fantastic, by the way.
He's great.
He said, talking about all the big hits, all about his big hits. Who do you predict will be the next walking hit stick? I like that term, a walking hit stick in the DB room. That is a great term. I like that one. He said also, CJ and Jeff, do y'all have anyone as well? So CJ, I heard, not heard, but I saw. I know you guys are familiar with Marcus Mosher. He does some work for 33rd, does some draft analysts, does some pretty good stuff. And he wrote an article about the hardest hitters in the draft. He had Makuba as his hardest hitter in the draft, an undersized safety. But man, if you go watch Makuba can put it on guys. And my biggest compliment to him was not only that you lay the wood and you bring that, what do you call that walking hit stick with him, but he hasn't gotten kicked out of a game. Like he hadn't gotten called for targeting. He hadn't, you know what I mean? Like they reviewed, reviewed multiple hits. Like when he laid the hammer down, they got reviewed multiple times.
Yeah. And
I was just, to me, I'm like, man, how do you target it so well? Where you can definitely put the maximum amount of just laying the wood on somebody, like boom, put the hammer on them. But also in this day and age, not get called for it. And he said he does actually make sure that he lines it up correctly when he's about to hit a guy. He doesn't just go for the waylay and taking a guy's head off. He actually tries to measure it and make sure he keeps his head out of the way and all that kind of stuff. So he's got a talent for it. But the next player who's going to also be the walking hit stick to me, this is a good one. I'm trying to look through that secondary. Jelani McDonald he's a physical presence there, and he can play nickel or safety. So I want to say him. To me, to be like him, or I like the way Derek Williams comes downhill.
Yeah.
Too. So I know he's not there this spring. But Jelani McDonald and Derek Williams seem to be my two guys because both of them are alley cats. And when I mean alley cats, somebody who can run the alley, get downhill to the football, taking precise angles to the football. And they're also guys that they come with an attitude once they get there. They try to knock guys back. So maybe those would be my two.
Xavier Fields to me has got that profile. We haven't seen him do it yet, though. My gut would tell me, if just looking at the roster, taking the freshmen out of it that we haven't seen yet do anything at this level. I would say I would lean toward Fields to me or Kobe Black.
Oh, Kobe Black's a good one.
I like Jelani. That's going to be my pick. And I think he plays close enough to the line of scrimmage, and he has the versatility to drop back, that just running the alley, like you said, Rod. He's going to have those opportunities on crossers in front of his face or going out or whatever to just catch somebody in a tough spot. And, at 6'2" and some change, I mean, that's a big body. A lot of physicality. We saw it against Vanderbilt in his first start for Andrew Makuba.
Yeah.
I think there were 3 or 4 tackles in that first half where I was sitting there saying, oh, wait a minute. This wasn't the kid from Connolly that was playing corner and wide receiver and quarterback at times. This is a legitimate D1 SEC safety. So I'm excited to see what he can do in year 2 as a contributor because he's got a world of potential.
Rod, I wonder if / when Coach Akeen is going to show this DB room as a room, show them the gold tape, which he's got. It's a reel of, going back to his first job. He's got this tape where it's just guys throughout the year that he's coached that it may be a great coverage or a lot of it's great hits. And I don't know why, Rod, but the clip of the gold tape that I've seen, the one hit that I remember, it was actually that 2001 Big 12 championship game loss to Colorado. There was a play, it was a short yardage play, and I remember Ahmad Brooks came downhill, and Bobby Purify gets a handoff, and I mean Ahmad Brooks, Brooks 5'8", 170 pounds. I mean, just sticks Bobby Purify right at the line of scrimmage and knocks him back. I mean, you look, it was a physical mismatch. Like, this should be back running over safety. Oh, Ahmad Brooks blew that cat up. Something fierce.
I remember the play. I can see it in my head right now too. And he almost kind of picks up Purify a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember that play, man. That was a hell of a play by Brooks.
Like, it is one of the most violent short yardage collisions I've ever seen in a football
game. Yeah. Now Brooks is he was one of, I want to say that game, maybe he was the leading tackler, or to say he had a great game that game. I mean, we ended up losing, but he had a great game that game, dude, because they were killing us in the run game, and Brooks was last line defense. They were killing us in the run game, but Brooks had a hell of a game, and he did. All right, getting back to it. Thank you for the question there, Joseph. That was a good one. Oh, let's thank another one of our sponsors before we move on here. Let's thank our friends at South Point Dodge before we get back to the questions. Texas football fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. Right now is a great chance for you to get one of those great deals at South Point Dodge. They have over 600 vehicles in stock right now, so something for everybody, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. And speaking of, scoring big, right now they have a great deal happening with over 50 of their Ram 2500s, all of them marked down with huge savings right now at South Point Dodge. So head on over there. You actually can see their inventory for yourself in South Austin, off I-35 there, or you can go online at southpointdodge.com and you can see their inventory there as well. So remember, South Point Dodge, Austin's automotive everything, no matter what you need, whether you need a new car, used car, you need a truck, maybe it's a trade-in. Our friends at South Point Dodge, they can give you the deal of a lifetime. So head on over there or just go to southpointdodge.com. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. Austin's automotive everything is southpointdodge.com. All right, getting back to the questions here. Oh, how about this from CB? Why is Banks falling? Yeah, he is falling. He's not falling out of the first round, as I'm sure you've seen, CB. But yes, he's right now. And you've seen a lot of mocks as well, Jeff. In a lot of mocks, he is the last Longhorn drafted in the first round. And the mocks prior to the pro day, the earliest mocks after the season, he was the first Longhorn drafted in most of those. And then now in a lot of the mocks, he's the last Longhorn drafted in the first round behind Barron and Golden.
Mm-hmm. The feeling, the more I read on this draft class, just by position, it seems like at least the talking head describes the draft nicks. This offensive tackle class specifically has like a boom or bust feel. Like there's not a consensus on where any of these guys are going. For example, I just give you a little sample with Kelvin Banks. Field Yates has him 16 to the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. Matt Miller's got him 23 to Green Bay. Mike Tannenbaum has him 25 to Houston. Lance Zierlein has him going 11th to the 49ers. Eric Edholm of NFL.com, 25 to the Texans. Charles Davis has him the first Longhorn off the board at 16 to the Cardinals. Bucky Brooks has him at 13 to the Dolphins. Chris Trapasso at CBS has him 13 to the Dolphins. So pretty much and then I saw a couple mocks at CBS. Kyle Stackpole and Pete Prisco both have him going in the top 10. Have him going to the Bears. So your stock, you can't get much more for a bona fide lock of a first round pick. You can't get much more wide ranging than he's a top 10 pick or he's like bottom of the first round.
Yeah. No, it's interesting and maybe that's just this draft. Is it possible because this draft it's such a unique draft, or there's a lot of depth at non-premium positions, and that's something that I think flusters a lot of NFL teams. I don't know if it's still the case, but I believe it was that every team still had their first round pick. Is that still the case? It was, and that, by the way, that is very, very to me, that's something that's usually unorthodox. You don't really get every team keeping their first round pick. Usually teams are willing to make a deal at this point, closing in on the NFL draft. So I just think that it may just be a sign of this draft, this unique draft period, that they just don't really know what to expect. They also said it's going to be really unpredictable. Be after maybe the top 10. It's going to be, because even Matthew Golden, you were talking about where all the wide-ranging, basically wide-ranging places that have Kelvin Banks drafted in terms of where he's going to be drafted. Here is Matthew Golden's current expert rankings where he's going to be drafted. Daryl Jeremiah's got him 15th. Phil Yates got him 20. Kuiper had him 25. Pro Football Focus got him 22. Jordan Reed had him 25. Dane Brugler got him 27. Zerline's got him 16th. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
So I think your analysis of the draft stock of Kelvin Banks can also be applied to a lot of guys that I just don't think we really know what this draft is going to look like. And we know these guys are going to be drafted in the first round, but where they're valued, I don't think we have any idea.
I saw a mock today that had a couple mocks actually that had Shedeur Sanders like in the late teens to the mid 20s. So if the most premium of premium positions is that up in the air, then this will be the first draft in a while where it's worth like just, sitting down and getting ready to watch a first round where outside of Cam Ward going 1 overall, I don't know what the heck's going to happen after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, like I said, it's interesting that like it's totally flipped now in terms of Kelvin. I don't know why he's sliding, though. I will say that. I don't know why he's sliding. I thought that he had really answered all the questions and all the criticism after the pro day, after the combine, because it was about arm length and his measurements. And he measured, I think we're at better measurements than Campbell, the LSU tackle, who's also in the same conversation to be the top tackle off the board. So I don't know why he's still dropping. Maybe because some people don't see him as a tackle. Maybe they see him as a guard. And if that's the case, then maybe they don't value that position as much as tackle. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
But
It's odd though. Like even Matthew Golden, like you said, Rod, I've seen him go in as early as 12 to the Cowboys. I saw a mock, one of those 10 mocks had him going 29th to Washington. Jahdae Barron, I've seen top, 9 to 12 predictions for Jahdae Barron and then going in like the mid 20s. So I've never seen, it's been a long time. I can't remember a first round, Rod, where it was this all over the place. Like everybody kind of agrees on who those guys are. It's just nobody agrees on where they're going to go.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah, you basically put all 25, 30 names on a hat, jumble it up, and that's where they're headed.
Still, I mean, if it was me, if I was the GM with the Titans, with all due respect to Cam Ward, I'm running Travis Hunter's name to the podium and not thinking twice. But that's just me.
Now with this draft class, I'm with you with this draft class. He seems like the surest thing because you give yourself a lot of margin for error.
Yeah.
Put him at wide receiver or corner. If he doesn't work out there, put him at the other, and then you go from there. He's going to work out at one of those positions.
He can return. He can be my return man.
Return man. Hell, he might work out at both of those positions in the NFL. Who knows? I think he's that damn good. So I think you're right, Jeff. I think that's the surest bet right now of this draft. And if it doesn't, like I said, if it doesn't work out, I'd be flabbergasted as to why, because you got all the different ways where you could maximize his talent. I think he should play both early on, though. I think you should sell him a little bit. Have him play defense. I think corner's a natural position, but I would sprinkle him in on offense, man. I would.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Getting back to the questions. How about this one from Texas Boyd? I think that's yeah. Thank you, Texas. I don't even know how to read that. Boy Wonder? Is that what it is? I think I got it. Boy Wonder. There you go. He said, y'all think we can borrow some stuff from the go-go offense? Thank you, Texas Boy Wonder. I appreciate that. Sark has already borrowed some of it with his pony package. He's taken some of the elements. He hasn't. They're not extreme like a lot of the formations and a lot of the alignment of the original go-go from Brendan Marion, but he uses some of it in his two-back sets. I think they should use just more two-back sets, period. I've been on board with them using more pony package. You guys know how I feel about it. It's explosive. It is efficient. It's effective for Texas. So maybe since you're not sure about the 12 personnel and not sure about your tight end position, you supplement with more 2 tailback sets. So if you are going to do that, you have the go-go recipe. I mean, Brendan Marion was here long enough where I'm sure he gave you all of the ingredients to the go-go.
Yeah.
Now, you may not run it exclusively, but you can run some of it.
Yeah.
Now with a full stable of guys that are healthy, do you see more of it? And I hope so, because, Rod, we've gone through the numbers. You have, I would assume, stacks and stacks and stacks of papers over there that prove that these numbers do work out in your favor as a Texas play caller when you do have 2 running backs on the field. The problem is a year ago, you had Trey Wisner, you had Jaden Blue, and then you basically were working with scraps, right? You know, you were working with a Jarrett Gibson who the staff didn't trust a whole lot, but they wanted to get him in there. Didn't necessarily fit his skill set to be on the field with another running back as well. Then you had Ryan Niblett, who, and again, we saw him sparingly on those 31 or those 3-back looks. Look, if that's where the staff wants to go, and it's kind of the complete opposite of the 6-man offensive line, I think they want to do that. They just didn't have the people to do just that, rather than having the people to do it and not wanting to go that direction like the 6-man. So if you have, 6 guys that are healthy, fingers crossed, right, for Christian Clark, who's back on the field, and CJ Baxter, who hopefully will get back running and moving in the summertime, you have a lot of weapons and opportunities to get guys different looks in this set. So if that's what Sark really wants to do, and look, we've seen it with wide receivers in the backfield for orbit motions, return motions, etc., they have the guys to do it now. They didn't last year.
Rod, you have more clarity on this than I do, but I think they used a little bit of it in 2023, but I know in 22, they broke out the diamond formation quite a bit with Roshan, Bijan, and Keelan Robinson. And, that's something that Sark knows how to use it. To CJ's point, you might just be especially if by the time you get to the Ohio State game, one of Christian Clark or CJ Baxter is healthy enough to be a part of that game plan, then you've got the personnel, diverse enough personnel to where you can break out that diamond formation again. And that would be a tendency breaker, because now you're counting on Matt Patricia and a new Ohio State defensive staff. Are they going to go back and watch film from 2 years ago against Texas Tech to figure out, or 3 years ago against Texas Tech to figure out what you're going to do against in a diamond formation?
Yeah. No, you're right about that. And he's definitely got the variety in the backfield now, and some not the same as having Bijan, Rojo, and Keelan Robinson and that kind of versatility in the backfield, but he's got now a variety of different skill sets to work with back there. So he's used it every year. I mean, ever since 2021, actually. He was using now he didn't use the go-go. He's using 2-back sets, and then started using some of the go-go elements. But I'm with you. Go study, or at least break out some of those go-go concepts if you're going to be using more 2-back sets, which I think they should. And the numbers they supported, I won't give them to you again because you guys probably are tired of hearing about now. But it works. All right, it works.
I just don't want Arch running a ton of triple option principles. No. I don't want that. And that's actually another thing too. The go-go it doesn't necessarily require, but it does work better when you have a mobile quarterback with the go-go offense. So this year, it may work even better than it did when you had Brendan Marion here, because you got a quarterback that has mobility to help you really add juice to it. So, all right. Thank you, Texas Boy Wonder. We appreciate that. Good question. All right. How about this one from Brian? When is Sark speaking to the media? I don't know.
We may never hear from him again, but fingers crossed. Look, we were supposed to hear from him on Monday. We didn't. Of course, deferred to the women's basketball team making the Final Four, and also men's swimming and diving winning the national championship. So right now, nothing scheduled that I know of for Friday, which would be the next practice for the Texas Longhorns. That would be practice number 6. So fingers crossed, and we typically have them on Monday more than not. So fingers crossed that next Monday we've got something if there's nothing there for Friday.
Yeah. No, that was like I said, that was honorable. Him saying that he didn't want to steal the spotlight from swimming and with men swimming and diving, and also from the women's accomplishments of reaching the Final Four. I get that. But will they? Because they give you like a certain amount of these things, like the media window. I think they end up canceling it because of the weather and the media availabilities. They're not gonna like make them up though. They're just gonna have the next one, which will be whatever. I guess the women are done. Like he's not gonna, right? Is he basically saying he's not gonna speak to the media until the women are done with their run?
Rod, your guess is as good as mine at this point.
You know what I mean? Because that I would be like, okay, well, I mean, I appreciate what Vic Schaefer and the ladies are doing, but I don't think one thing has, I don't think one thing has something to do with the other. I don't think Longhorn fans' attention span and bandwidth is that small and short. I think they could handle Texas football and then rooting for the women's basketball team as well. So
you think about when was that? When did we have that? That was what, CJ, the Monday before spring break was the last time we talked to Sark?
Yeah. Was it March 10th?
Like the 11th or something like that?
Yeah.
10th or 11th?
It was a while ago.
Yeah. Hey, like I said, but usually I would say Sark is very, generous usually with his time with the media. So I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying like, man, it's been a while. All right.
Your point though, Rod, I think this bears repeating, because anytime we get to spring ball or camp, we get asked about access and, hey, what do you guys get to see? I just think this is a spring where Sark doesn't want us around a whole lot because they're doing so much teaching, and it's so much. Even the one time we were out there, it was so much more individual period intensive than I can remember a Sark practice.
Yeah.
That I don't think he wants that. I'm not going to call it an added distraction, but maybe it is just, it's one less thing he's got to worry about. Somebody seeing something or reporting something that he doesn't want seen. And like I said, Sark wants us out there with the periods that he lets us out there. There's nothing that we can see that's going to be detrimental to be reported. But I think he would just rather keep it all in-house this spring and not, you don't have to waste any periods.
Yeah.
Sark don't want to hear about the Arch hype. Where are we supposed to go with Arch Manning and the updates?
No, yeah, I know. It's like I said, he's earned the right now. He's earned the right.
You know what though, CJ? The Arch clickbait, it's only going to get worse. It's going to get ramped up the closer we get to the start of the season.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be unlike anything we've ever seen actually at Texas.
we can have compelling Arch Manning content without making stuff up.
No, it's going to be wild.
A lot of
let's actually take this super chat from 817 Mr. Talk Too Much first before we thank another of our sponsors. It says, gotta see Venables sit down with Josh Pate. It was a therapy session, not an interview. I did not see it, actually. I guess I'll go check it out. Thank you, Mr. 817 Mr. Talk Too Much. Appreciate that. I'll go check it out right after this live stream. I've not seen it. Man, so have you seen this, CJ?
No, I've not, but I will say this. I had a conversation this afternoon actually with someone pretty close to the Oklahoma programs saying, hey, this is do or die for Brent Venables, right? It was a bad year last year. You changed coordinators, you take back responsibility of the play caller, which I don't know what he was doing beforehand. That was kind of what made him the guy that Oklahoma wanted to hire. So I don't know. But look, you go out, you pay the quarterback, you get the offensive coordinator, you get the guys that you think can change and mold and save this offense to pair with what I still think was a pretty solid defense a year ago. Now, their portal additions on paper weren't pretty, but this is a team that should compete in the SEC. I'm not saying win, I'm not saying blow everybody out of the water either, but I'm saying this is a team on paper that should be able to compete in the SEC. Now, if they don't, and if they don't in Dallas, then I think you might see a short leash for the 2025 season.
That to me is the bigger thing with OU. It's, the Texas game, the South Carolina game, the loss to LSU. There were too many games for that fan base's liking, especially a program the caliber of Oklahoma. Too many games last year where you just weren't competitive, and regardless of the circumstances. Look, I mean, the Texas game, you're in a position to where that game could have been, like a 10-3 game at halftime. And, Trey Weiser scores 2 touchdowns, or technically Silas Bolden got the first one, but they scored 2 touchdowns in like a minute and 5 seconds. And the game's over. Like, you get to halftime and the game's over. There was just too many of those. So to me, I think that's the stuff he's got to rectify. And you know what? I'm anxious to see this interview, Rod, because after, covering Mac at the end and Charlie at the end and Tom Herman at the end, I want to see the look on Brent Venables' face, because I know that look. I know that look that's part anxiety, part desperation, part false enthusiasm. I know the look. So I want to see if Brent Venables has that look in his eye.
Yeah, I like the method to the hire. I mean, like I said, Washington State actually did have a pretty good offense, but the method to the hire is basically what the same thing you did with Dylan Gabriel, where you basically have a guy that's been in a system for a while, and then Jeff Levy in that system, they were together, right, for a while, and then you brought those two back together, so he had that quarterback had experience in the system. It's very similar with, I think it's Mateer is his name, and Ben Arbuckle. They were together at Washington State for 2 years, and then now you're bringing both of those, those guys together. That'll help the offense. Just naturally, the offense will be more proficient because you have someone who knows the system and who has intimate knowledge of it, and that symbiotic relationship, right? I think that'll help it automatically. Now, after that, in terms of what's on the O-line and do they have the skill position at wide receiver and all that, that's a different conversation altogether. But in terms of just the method to him hiring the offensive coordinator and the rationale behind it, I think it actually is sound. It's in terms of getting him back on track quicker offensively.
I agree. And look, this is do or die. So you got to buy yourself some time. The same way that we talked about it with Hugh Freeze and Auburn. Did they win enough? They did. Now you get to that one more recruiting class with Oklahoma and their recruiting class right now. They just hired Jim Nagy, who came from the college ranks, the Reese's Senior Bowl kind of GM there. Now he's going to be in charge of recruiting in Oklahoma. So they're revamping everything, right? Offensive coordinator, Venables is taking over DC, brand new quarterback. You got to build a brand new offensive line with Bill Bedenbaugh. That's always been their strength, right? But even you look further down the road, this recruiting cycle for Oklahoma, this is the month of April, and it's a completely reshifting of the board of what's going on in Norman versus what Texas has been building, what A&M has been building on, what LSU has been building on. So we'll see, right? And I think there are a lot of life jackets being thrown out in terms of what can we do to save our job and what can we do to make sure that we even make it to next year right now.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, CJ. He's just got to survive. He's got to survive. It's really where I felt like it. To me, it's less of Tom Herman 2020 and more 2016 Charlie Strong. Because I remember talking to Charlie that offseason, and almost the mentality was, if we could just win enough games to get us to 2017, because they felt like whether it was Marvin Wilson or Walker Little or Baron Browning, they felt like that 2017 recruiting class could have been a special class. They just felt like they just needed to get through the season, get that fourth year, and then they were going to be off and running. We know they never got there. I think that's more of what this is for Brent Venables. You just got to be competitive. The schedule's going to be tough. I don't think you got to go win 11 games. You just got to survive, because you know what? If you fire a head coach, I know it sounds all fine and dandy, but if you're Oklahoma, you fire a head coach, that great recruiting class you just had, a lot of those guys are going to portal out because they came to play for Brent Venables and this staff. If you fire Bill Bedenbaugh, you think any of those offensive linemen are going to stick around? Probably not. So it's not just as simple as, and guys, look, I'm speaking about this from experience. We've seen it at Texas. It's not just as simple as fire the head coach, everything will be better. It's like, no, fire the head coach and things are going to suck for about 12 to 15 months. So you better get your head right for it.
Yeah. Look at Sark. I mean, year one, that wasn't very fun for anybody.
Yeah. Then you could hire the wrong guy though after that too. And then you end up getting deeper, right? Deeper into a hole as a program. That's why I took Sark that 2021 season. He said he probably could have won a couple more games, but he said he wanted to build the foundation the right way. And obviously Sark was right about that.
Thank goodness he did.
Yeah, let's thank our friends over at Von Lane as we approach the end of our live stream. Thank you to Von Lane, vonlane.com. A lot of you out there have tried flying and driving between the major Texas cities, Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, Houston. Well, a lot of you out there have had to deal with the hassle of flying and driving to those major cities. If you're flying, you got to deal with security lines and packed gates and delayed flights and all the ridiculous prices of everything in the airport, all for what a 60-minute flight's not worth it. Your stress levels are up, and you got to deal with all of the hassles of flying these days. And driving isn't much better at all. You ever tried that same day round trip between Dallas and Austin, or Houston and Austin, San Antonio and Houston? Hours of lost productivity, emails piling up, calls going unanswered, work left undone, all while you try to focus on the road. Why waste a day when you can stay connected and stay productive with Von Lane? Von Lane changes everything, folks. It's luxury regional bus travel, what some call a private jet on wheels. You can sink into a plush leather seat with a leg rest. You can stay connected with complimentary Wi-Fi, complimentary snacks, also drinks on every trip, and you have delicious meals on select departures as well. If you need to freshen up, they have hot towel service. Also, if you want to relax, they have eye masks and pillows and blankets to keep you cozy. The Von Lane team takes care of every detail so you can sit back, relax, unwind, and enjoy the most comfortable travel experience on the road today. So if you're a business traveler, you can recapture all of that lost productivity and you can do your research. I've done a lot of research on those Von Lane trips. Also, if you're just traveling for leisure purposes, you can sit back, relax, and unwind and let the Von Lane team take care of you. Also, if you're traveling for a bachelor party or a bachelorette party or a guy's trip, gal's trip, football game, concert, or special event, you can charter your own Von Lane coach for the ultimate group experience. Von Lane is first-class travel without the hassle. See for yourself. Visit vonlane.com. That's VONLANE.com and use the promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip with vonlane.com. All right, let's get back to
Rod. I think at this point, since Von Lane is servicing Memphis now, I think Chris Beard could buy him his own Von Lane route from Memphis to Oxford if he just wants to, go for like an hour and a half, just stroll down the highway. He's gonna have enough money to do it now.
Yeah. So the Aggies actually, was that real that they went after him, or was that just?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's
it was Jeff. We talked about it over the weekend. Kind of, oh boy, we had heard, that Buzz Williams to Maryland was a thing that you should keep an eye on, and it's all like, ha ha ha, lose the coach. It's like, oh, but Chris Beard's going to be the top option. It's like, oh. So for him to stay at Ole Miss, I think Texas fans, and to see it all play out the way that it did,
Yeah, man, that's sad. Sad for the Aggies, man. That's a sad state of affairs. Yeah, poor old Aggie. That's sad right there.
I'll tell you what, we talk about Brent Venables, job security. If you're an A&M fan, how thrilled are you with Trev Alberts right now between the Schloss Michael Early debacle and now not being able to get the Chris Beard thing? Where CJ, we had talked about it as a staff, like that thing was about as close to across the finish line as you could get, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah, it was like going to VAR, right, to determine that there's that much of the ball that hadn't crossed over for a goal in soccer. Well, Jeff, to add to that, Ross Bjork, what he did this past January, he just lifted a national championship trophy with Ohio State. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't think about that either. Insult to injury. Man, I didn't realize that they got turned down by Chris Beard like that. Tough days for the Aggies. All right, let's get back to the questions here. Aggie jokes are too easy. How about this one from Cisco? He says, what about moving Michael Terry to tight end? Also, he wants to know thoughts on Bucky Brooks having Jade as his top nickel. We'll get to that one. Yeah. Moving Michael Terry to tight end, I mean, don't we just want him to master wide receiver first, or Cisco, or are you just suggesting that with a lack of depth at tight end, just move him to tight end so you can have more depth there? Maybe that's what he's, instead of Michael Terry splitting time, or Michael Terry being a wide receiver now just for depth purposes, maybe the first position he should learn is tight end instead of starting at wide receiver. Let's start him at tight end.
Yeah.
And that's what Cisco's saying.
I don't hate the suggestion, Cisco. The problem is, and we mentioned this a little bit with the bodies in that room. Look, if your lightest guy is Will Randall at about 240, that's 25 pounds away from Michael Terry currently. So I know that they're working to try to add more weight on him. He's about 216, I believe, at the moment. That's a lot of weight from now until October that you're hoping a young kid to gain. And of course, does that change his flexibility, his ability to cut, his speed, which is one of the big factors and reasons why Texas wanted him so heavily at that height and weight. So I would say tight end is a spot that he could eventually move to, but I'm not certain it's going to be one that we see in 2025.
With his body type, skill set, athletic ability, of the three positions he could have started out at on offense, wide receiver is the one that makes most sense to me, because you learn it conceptually. That's the way Sark and Chris Jackson teach it. It's, you're not asking him to do stuff at the point of attack or in the C gap that he's just not used to doing. And right now there's more snaps for him. Even before Ryan Wingo's injury or DeAndre Moore's injury, like there was more snaps for him at wide receiver than there were at running back. Now with two guys down, you got all kinds of snaps for receiver. So I don't want to pull him away from receiver. Get him comfortable with receiver, just understanding the route tree. And look, to CJ's point, and I think that's kind of the overlying thing, he's not going to get to a point where he's just going to suddenly be like, show up in camp and be ready to be like this dominant inline blocker. He's going to be a move guy. You've already got a lot of move guys. Nick Townsend's a move guy. Jordan Washington's a move guy. So it just doesn't, to me, it's easier to teach him wide receiver and move him to the other two than vice versa.
All right. Cisco also wants to know about Bucky Brooks having Jade as his top nickel. Yeah, I saw that because he ranked his cornerbacks, and in his cornerback rankings, he says, hey, I'm putting Jade at nickel for y'all who are obviously concerned about why he's not ranked as one of the top corners. Listen, Jade, the selling point to Jade is that he can play any position in the secondary.
Yep.
And he projects as a starter at nickel and a starter at corner in the league. Like either place you want to put him. I've even heard some folks say that, they believe he could play safety if you actually need him to play safety in the league too. So his versatility is his number one selling point. I like that Bucky Brooks had him at nickel. There's some defenses that value nickel, now a whole lot more than they used to. He's not going to be considered a lockdown corner. And if he's not, in terms of like a guy that plays a lot of man and the guy you can throw out there and just put him in press man coverage, he's considered probably the best zone coverage cornerback in the draft. No question about that. Travis Hunter is seen as a guy that's supposed to be kind of a lockdown guy. Throw him out there, let him go lock down that receiver and play press man coverage. But he's not as versatile as Jade. So I think Jade actually, I can't wait to see who drafts him.
Right. Did you see Jade's story? I think it was a story, or maybe it was a quote he had. He said, look, corner or not, I'm DB one in this draft. I'm the most versatile guy there. And that just backs up what you said. Nickel, safety, cornerback. Put him anywhere, you're going to get yourself a good ball player.
Yep.
Look, as a Cowboys fan, as a lifelong Cowboys fan, this pains me to say it. Even though my all-time favorite Longhorn, Casey Hampton, played for the Steelers, I look at Jade, Rod, and I think about Mike Tomlin and that organization and what they value on defense, what they value in people. Jade Barron to the Steelers, to me, fits like a glove, man.
Mm-hmm. It does. I agree with you. Sound organization just picks a guy that's going to play with him for the next 10 years.
And is he? And I think Mike Tomlin, one of your former NFL coaches that you had a chance to be around. I mean, Mike Tomlin knows about guys in the set, and he knows about good secondary play. Hey, is he going to be a corner? Is he going to be a safety? He's going to be. Who cares?
Who cares?
You got a guy that's going to. I think you got a guy that's going to start 10+ years in the NFL.
Yep. And I prefer the fact I can bring him in, and if I need a nickel, I can put him at nickel. If I need a corner, I can put him at corner. I would draft him for that reason. Like, no, I'm gonna put him where I need him actually, and then we'll figure out where his home is later. But where I need him early on, I'm gonna put him where I need him. All right, good question there. Let's go. How about this one from Justin? We got a super chat from Justin. Thank you, Justin. He says, I seen a take from Dave Campbell's magazine where they say we won't make the college football playoff this year. Seems like a tough take for me. Thoughts? Okay. How does Texas not make the college football playoff this year? I can see it with, I'm gonna knock on wood, if there are injuries at some key positions, that can always hurt you. If Texas didn't fix the issues they had last year, if Texas had some of the same issues they had last year, red zone, third quarter woes, being one of the teams that basically one of the most turnover heavy teams in all of college football. I think they were one of the bottom 15 in terms of turnovers, giving away the football this past season. Yeah, I could see them losing one or two more games than they should, but man, that means you're not in the top 12 pretty much teams in the country. That would be considered a disappointment, I guess, but it wouldn't be shocking to me if Texas didn't make the college football playoff this year. I'm not gonna lie. It wouldn't be. I haven't made my prediction yet, but it wouldn't be shocking to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat, Rod. I mean, look, you got essentially a brand new offensive line. I know you've got 2.5 guys that have seen some meaningful time: Cole Hudson, DJ, and Trevor Gooseby. But you got a tackle on the right side that's brand new. You got a left guard that's brand new. You got a first-time center ever that's brand new. You got a brand new tight end. You got 6 brand new wide receivers who are set to be the offense right now. I know Wingo and Moore are coming back, but again, you're seeing it right now. Should either of them go down in the fall, you're looking at what this room will look like, and it's not a whole lot of guys that Arch Manning has ever thrown a pass to. So offensively, does the magic of an Arch Manning, or is he able to put the cape on enough, Rod, to alleviate all these concerns? We'll have to wait and see. I would have to assume that the way that he's kind of built himself up behind the scenes and in practice, that he's going to be really good. But you have to consider, go on the road to Ohio State, go on the road to Georgia, go on the road to Florida, and then you play Texas A&M, and you play Arkansas, and you play Oklahoma. I don't know. I'm not ready for prediction, but I could certainly see 3 losses this year.
Yep.
I think you've got to, no matter what happens in the Ohio State game, I think you've got to make it to the SEC championship game to feel good about getting to the playoff. Because I just think with the schedule, even though you play, like CJ just pointed out, you play in some tough road environments. I don't think 2 SEC. Look, if you have 3 regular season losses, I don't think you're getting in unless just some weird stuff happens. I think a 10-2 Texas, if one of those losses is Ohio State and one is in conference play, and then in theory that gets you to the SEC championship game, then I think if you make the SEC championship game, you're in. Mm-hmm. So can they do that? I don't know if they can do that with more than one conference loss.
Yeah. Like I said, wouldn't be shocking, but I think the expectation is Texas makes the college football playoff. Well, be a disappointment, but it wouldn't be shocking to me.
Mr. 817, Mr. Talk Too Much makes a good point. So we'll be scary come playoff time. That's kind of what there's a Texas, and Texas isn't alone. I think with the exception of like Penn State and Clemson, I think out of the gate are going to have really high expectations. Mm-hmm. Everyone's have high expectations, but I think they're going to be expected to. There's an expectation for an undefeated regular season, I think, for both of them.
Yeah,
I think Texas in a boat with Georgia, Ohio State, a lot of these other contending teams where no matter how you start out, you want to be trending in the right direction right around Thanksgiving. In other words, going into your rivalry games, Georgia going into the game against Georgia Tech, Ohio State going into the game against Michigan, Texas going into the A&M game. I think they want to be hitting their stride right then and look and say, hey, we don't even look like the same team that played Ohio State. We're so much more mature, so much more growth. We're calloused. We're so much better. I think that's where you want this Texas team to be.
Yeah. That's a good point. All right, let's thank our last sponsor of the evening before we end our live stream. Our friends over at Bluebird Organizing. Is your wife actually feeling a bit overwhelmed these days? Does she consistently mention how she wishes she could find items more easily, or how she wants to park her car in the garage, but there's no space at all? Or maybe she complains about tripping over the kids' toys, or maybe you, as a husband, feeling a little bit lost with all the change going on with spring cleaning well on its way. Mother's Day is just around the corner. Give your wife the gift of a lifetime with a customized organizing session from Bluebird Organizing. Perry, owner of Bluebird Organizing, will come into your space without judgment and give your wife the organized kitchen, closet, playroom, and or garage of her dreams. Plus, Perry will take all donations for you at the end. All right, so you don't have to do anything. You know, she can declutter your space, and she'll take all the stuff that you don't want there. And right now, if you are ready to get a free consultation with Perry, you can reach out to her via call or text 737-346-7779. That's 737-346-7779. And get ready to basically enjoy a more organized, a more constructive space period with Bluebird Organizing. So we appreciate them. It's a free in-person consultation, by the way, so you have nothing to lose but so much to gain with Bluebird Organizing. And I actually will have a personal testimony about Bluebird Organizing because I reached out to Perry. So I'm working on decluttering some of the areas, including this office actually that I'm working in right now, and the garage, because we're trying to get both of the cars in the garage. So I've reached out to Perry. I'll let you guys know exactly how it goes and exactly what she suggests for me to declutter my workspace right here. And you guys will get to see it here on Texas Football. So I appreciate Perry for working with me, and I appreciate Bluebird Organizing, and you will too. BluebirdOrganizing.net. That's BluebirdOrganizing.net. All right, thank you very much to all the for all you guys out there participating, and gals, by the way, participating. Thanks for the questions and the comments. Thank you for the super chats as well. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. Matthew is the real MVP. Thank you to all of our sponsors, including Bluebird Organizing, BluebirdOrganizing.net. Thank you to Von Lane, VonLane.com. Remember to use that promo code OTF25, and then you'll get $20 off your first trip with Von Lane. Thank you to South Point Dodge, SouthPointDodge.com, and Flat Creek Estate Winery, FlatCreekEstate.com. Thank you, Jeff, for all of the expertise and the knowledge. Thank you, CJ. We appreciate all of your efforts as well. Matthew, he's the real MVP. And for Matthew and for CJ and for Jeff, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.
Thank you, Rod.